there is about 15 to 30% of the fat in fish is plain old saturated fat. So Dean took all of those out of the diet and he focused on the power foods, the broccoli and the beans and rice and potatoes, the vegetarian foods. And this is his new study. Did you hear about this? Men with prostate cancer. This was just in the news recently. I don't know if you heard about this or not. 49 people with prostate cancer who were able to wait. They didn't have to have surgery right away. And they were assigned to the control group, and 44 were assigned to a vegan diet. Why? Because the diet doesn't only cause weight loss, it doesn't only reduce your cholesterol, it also brings hormones into better balance. And that's true for men and it's true for women. At the end of a year, how many people needed cancer treatment, meaning they couldn't wait anymore? 6 in the control group, none in the vegan group. And so out of 93 men with prostate cancer, at the bottom is the prostate-specific antigen. This is a blood test that tracks how the prostate cancer is doing, and it rose, which it normally does as the cancer progresses, in the control patients, in the people who were not treated with the diet regimen. But it fell, on average, in the vegans. And he then took prostate cancer cells, which you can actually buy off the shelf at a medical supply, and you then mix the serum with them, serum from patients, mix them with cells to see the effect on the cell lines, and you look for inhibition. It's a standard assay. And it was clear that the men eating these vegan foods, not only were they doing well, but you could actually show in their blood anti-cancer properties that would inhibit the growth of cells in the test tube. I want to talk about a study that's done by David Jenkins, who is working with us on our diabetes study. He developed what he calls the portfolio diet. A portfolio diet is a portfolio of dietary changes. And what he said was, if a vegetarian diet will lower cholesterol, which it does, and if what he would call viscous fiber, that means soluble fiber like oats or barley, if that lowers cholesterol, and if soy will lower cholesterol, which it will, and if almonds and other nuts will lower cholesterol, and if certain plant sterols will lower cholesterol, what happens if we take them all at the same time? So he did a 4-week trial with 3 groups. One group got just a more moderate low-fat diet. That's your control group for comparison. The next group got that same diet along with lovastatin, a cholesterol-lowering drug. But then the third group didn't get any drug. They just got this vegetarian portfolio diet. And the low-fat diet, the control diet, their LDL, bad cholesterol, it dropped about 8%. The people on the low-fat diet plus the cholesterol-lowering drug, their cholesterol dropped about 31%, which is good. But look at those vegetarians, no drugs at all, and their cholesterol dropped almost the same as those who got the prescription. Here's my point. Dietary changes are first-line treatments. The patient comes in with high blood pressure. The prescription should be a diet change. The person comes in with a cholesterol problem, or they come in with a weight issue. The first line of treatment should be diet. Medications and surgery are alternatives. Medication is a complementary medicine, if you will. We hear it the reverse, don't we? Your prescription first, and if that doesn't work, we might try diet. It should be exactly the opposite. We should address the cause, and that's diet. You be the doctor. The patient comes into the doctor's office and presents with yellowed fingers, a chronic cough. He's been spitting up blood, and he's had gradual weight loss. What's going on? There's an empty cigarette pack in his pocket. Now, when I was in medical school, we would say, I see your fingers are kind of yellow. We should get a dermatologic consultation. The chronic cough can be dealt with by the pulmonologist. You're spitting up blood. Well, let's just wipe that away. You're losing weight. Let's eat more. And by the way, we sell cigarettes in the hospital gift shop. You could pick some up. Well, what should the doctor do? What we should recognize is these are all symptoms of smoking that is leading to what looks to me like lung cancer. And we have to intervene way before that cough ever begins. Okay, you be the doctor. The patient comes into the doctor's office with broken blood vessels on his nose. He's got an unsteady gait. He's got chronic marital problems that he's complaining about. He's got a history of cirrhosis. And he's had a number of arrests for driving while intoxicated. Well, in American medicine, I'm going to send him to the dermatologist who probably has an ointment for his nose. We'll send him to the neurologist to look at his gait. We'll send him to the psychologist to deal with his... No, we don't do any of that. We know. Doctors know what this is. This is alcoholism. And there's not a doctor in America who isn't clearly trained to recognize all those things and to refer that person not just for medical care, but to get off the offending agent. We know that, and we deal with it, some more effectively than others. But we don't just treat the symptoms. We will treat that cause. And doctors know they will send the patient to AA. They will not fool around. They don't say, just try to switch to beer and wine. We say you can't drink anymore. We bring in the family. We counsel them. We bring in the kids. And we're strict. And we'll send that person to AA. We say, you don't have to like it. You have to go. Treat it like a drug and take this and do it. You're the doctor. The patient comes into the doctor's office. He's got gradual weight gain. He's got chronic constipation. He's got a high cholesterol level. He's got high blood pressure. He's got diabetes. What should the doctor do? Well, what the doctor does now is send the patient to a dietitian to try to cut out some calories, give the patient some remedy. Oftentimes it's either a cathartic or it's fiber taken out of plant foods and concentrated in a bottle that the person pays for to add to juice or something to swallow more fiber. The cholesterol is treated with Lipitor, the most popular drug, the most often prescribed drug in the world is not a treatment for an infective illness. It's not an AIDS treatment. It's Lipitor. It's a cholesterol-lowering drug. The most popular medication on earth is there to bring down problems caused by dietary excess. The high blood pressure is treated with 1, 2, or 3, or sometimes 4 drugs. Diabetes, same story. People come to my office on 7, 8, 9, 10 drugs. What should the doctor do? The most common illnesses are the result of being hooked. They're the result of something cultural. Yes, tobacco, maybe alcohol, maybe drugs, or unhealthy foods. And it's time for us to recognize that we can't just treat symptoms. We have to go to the cause, and that's where it is.
This child can't breathe on his own, has to be on a breathing machine at night, has crushed one of his hips, has liver disease as a result of so much fat infiltrating his liver. Maybe he is a candidate for something like bariatric surgery, and maybe some of these pills at that far end might need to be employed to get people from devastating illness to a little bit closer to some form of wellness. But these can't be the answer for the vast majority of us. These can't be the answer for the children in our schools now, in our neighborhoods now, and in our homes now. What really is the answer? So this is really what we've evolved to. And what does that really mean is that we're out of energy balance. It's a very simple equation of physics. It's a very simple metabolic concept in medicine that what you put in and how much you expend on the other end must be in balance, or you are either negative on one side or positive on the other. Doctor, what happens when you watch TV? Well, you're not obviously physically active. It may be a good opportunity for you to be next to one of those big bags of something that you're eating without even realizing you're eating it. But what else happens to our children? They're given messages. They are given 40,000 messages a year about eating fast food and junk food and sweetened beverages. They're talked about, the Barbie with her Taco Bell stand and all this cross-fertilization that you can get toys and all of this with your multicolored sugar-coated cereal and on and on. And who do you think drives what gets bought in families? It's children as young as 3 and 4 years of age who are being marketed to, who are being branded by our food industry. So what does this lead to? The future of taking your dog for a walk. And who's disproportionately affected? It is people of color. Why? Because they don't care what they eat, not even remotely. Part of it may be genetic, but a lot of it, and most of it, is because of the opportunity, the affordability, and the accessibility of good food options and healthy activity opportunities. You know, I live in the west side of Los Angeles. You know, on a good weekend, you got to fight to find a place to walk. Everybody is trying to be healthy. You can't get through Whole Foods. I mean, forget it. It's just too crowded. You go over to East LA or you go to the South LA, and you can't be out there like you are in West Los Angeles walking and running. It is not safe. You can't afford a personal trainer like most of the people on my block have. You can't find Whole Foods. You're in a convenience store. This is not about that person's choice to live that way. It's about that person having no other option than living that way. And if we don't care about those people because we don't know who they are and it's too remote from us, you should care because eventually we will all pay for it some way, economically or not. And it would be a lot easier for us to help them prevent it in the first place.
Once a year, we would have a big amount of sweets in the house. My mom got us carob. I was like, what is this? This is not chocolate. Even at 5, I knew that this was not chocolate. But at Christmas, my grandparents would send us this big tin of cookies, and we were allowed 1 a day. But I knew where they were hidden. So I'd go down after all the lights were out and go in the kitchen and behind all the pots and pans and open the thing and take out like 2 or 3. And they'd always say, where did all the cookies go? I don't know. I'm young and innocent. It wasn't me. So I grew up in this great environment, but I still had this real strong craving for sugar. And the first chance I got, with every allowance, every birthday check, I would run down to the corner store and get candy and play video games, and the money was gone in like 2 days. And when I was 14, I got my first job at the muffin break, which I was just a dishwasher, but I got all the muffins I could eat and sodas. It was like unlimited sugar. It was fantastic. And all the money that I made went to hanging out with my friends, going to McDonald's, having huge soda pops, buying Dr. Pepper, stuff like that. And I lived like that for the next 10, 12 years, from 14 to 24, 26. Something else interesting, this is my take on documentary films and maybe why the movie was so popular, and I think you all can probably relate to this. Has anybody here actually seen a real news program in the last 5 years? Do they exist anymore? I don't know. I think documentary films are so popular because they give a chance for the filmmaker to present a lot of information, both sides of the story, without all of without the corporations breathing down your neck. Because the TV stations are owned by the same companies that own the food companies and the pharmaceutical industry. They're all in bed together. It's really hard to get information that isn't tainted by a company's bottom line.
There was a rabbit going up a hill, and I drew a bead on the rabbit, and I shot the rabbit. And I was excited. I was running up the hill. And I got up to where the rabbit was, and the rabbit was still alive. And basically what I had Thumper looking at me, saying, "Why did you do this?" So that was the first major event in my conversion. They took the gun back and sold it, and I've never shot a gun since. And then I got involved in the anti-war movement, which seemed to be consistent with getting rid of the gun. And in doing that, it became apparent to me that there was a big disconnect in compassion and caring in the world. And that was working through it, and in that period of time, there was a night when I was served a steak, and I was eating the steak. And while I was eating the steak, I had an epiphany. I got the sense of the animal, and that was the last time that I ever ate meat. Then I had to figure out what to do with that. And there was fun, because at the time I was, not only in the anti-war movement, but I had come out of what we would call today probably gangbangers, but at the time were called euphemistically car clubs. And my friends didn't think that this was something that I was really committed to and serious about. So at one barbecue that the group was having, the gang was having, whatever, they decided it would be cute to hold me down and feed me hamburgers. But it was interesting, because within 3 years, 90% of them were vegetarians, so apparently there was something in the message.
The major cause of cancers that we see as adults, breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, is predominantly caused by what we ate in our childhood. And right now, we have the World Health Organization is predicting a doubling of the cancer rate in the next 20 years, because the way people eat today and the way we feed our children is so horrible. The medical profession always has a pill to make up for the bad diet, so that people don't have to eat healthy. It's the message I got in medical school. Oh, we know you're right, but people just want to take a pill. I said, that's irrelevant what people want to do. We have to inform them so people can make a decision what they choose to do based on correct information, not paternalistically decide for them that what they want is the pill. But here's the thing, is that brain tumors and acute blastocytic leukemia, the leading cause of death in children, except for accidents, is caused by the lack of fruits and vegetables in the mother's diet during pregnancy and 2 years prior to conception. So instead of spending all this effort educating women about folate, why didn't we just go straight to the source and tell them about eating fruits and vegetables? We would have wiped out neural tube defects and childhood cancer and brain tumors. Don't you think that would have made more sense? This is what Americans consume today. Look at this. Americans are eating 40% of calories from animal products, right? And the food element in animal product that's most closely linked in the medical literature with cancer is saturated fat. And the food that contributes more saturated fat to the American diet than any other food is dairy products. Cheese and butter contain 10 or 20 times as much as chicken or turkey might. And then we have 51% of calories from processed foods. They don't contain the phytochemicals and antioxidants and vitamins and minerals either. And when you cook food at high heat and make pretzels and cornflakes and Cheerios when you do that, you create acrylamides, which are potent cancer-causing agents. And then they put trans fats and salt in those processed foods. The link between processed foods and most cancers is the same as the link between animal products and cancer. You can't eat your diet based on processed foods. Just because you're on a vegetarian diet doesn't guarantee you good health and long life. You have to be on a vegetable-based diet, not a vegetarian diet. There's a difference. People are totally in the dark. Even vegetarians are totally in the dark. For some reason, they think that they're not going to get demented in later life if they just stay away from animal products. And you watch them eating a diet of cold cereal with soy milk in the morning, and ravioli with a mushroom sauce at lunch, and at dinner they'll have a chili with rice, and they're still eating a diet. They're not eating a diet rich in they're not getting a variety of nutrients. They didn't have berries, nuts and seeds, red beans, green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables. They missed the whole point. It's not just what you don't eat. You have to eat the foods that contain these powerful nutrients if you want real protection. Nobody needs get demented into the later years. You don't want to just live a long time in a nursing home after a stroke, right? You want to live a long time in great health. And people who follow the high nutrient recommendations with a broad assortment, a variety of natural plant foods, get dramatic extensions in longevity.
This is a typical patient. This is somebody who has high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, gout, an element of kidney failure, overweight, mildly arthritic, constipated, and depressed, and this is not an exaggeration. So this person goes to the doctor faithfully, maybe once a month, spends hard-earned dollars, maybe thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. Now, you don't know this person, but you know somebody just like this. You have an aunt, a grandmother, sister, a brother. You know somebody just like this who went to the doctor faithfully, looking for hope, looking for a solution to their problems. And this is the kind of patient that I used to see also, and this is the kind of results that I used to get. Here's the patient 2 years later. Now, my question for you is this, what do you see different? Nothing. Nothing. The person is still fat and sick. They're just walking around with a bag full of drugs. Am I exaggerating? Okay, why does it continue? Especially when you hear people like Dr. Kaufman this morning and other speakers here tell you that we know the cause. So some of you are really sincere about wanting to be healthy and wanting to get off your blood pressure pills, your diabetic pills, get the weight off in particular. And there are some pitfalls that I want to go over with you for just a moment. One of the things you have to be very careful about being a vegetarian is getting the high-fat plant foods out of your diet, nuts, seeds, avocados. If you're trim, there's no problem with these in your diet, but these are concentrated calories. This is full of fat. This is 90% fat. The fat you eat is the fat you wear, and even worse is when you take and you eat free fats. You see, in the nut, seed, and avocado, they're mixed up with vitamins and minerals and fibers and phytates and all kinds of things that are helping these fats do their job when they get into the body. But you take and pull them out. Remember, there are no free fats in nature. You pull these fats out and you make them free fats. You remove them from their protective environment. These things are medicines at best and toxins at worst. I strongly urge you to get all the free fats out of your diet.
Servings of fruits and vegetables a day. There's only one way to ensure that your child learns to like fruits and vegetables, and that is to pretend that you don't care. I don't know how Condi Rice got into my talk. Part of this was scrunched together by a friend. French fries are not a vegetable. The more that we they're not. Look it up. The more that we care, the more that we push kids to eat broccoli, the less likely they are to eat broccoli. A child memorizes the concept. We say, listen, if you take 2 bites of this stuff you really dislike, we will reward you with 3 of these things that are going to be bad for you for the rest of your life. So the child thinks, so broccoli obviously is even worse than I thought it was because for 2 bites of broccoli I get 3 cookies, and cookies are obviously better than I thought they were because I get the cookies after that abhorrent green stuff, and our whole lives we reward ourselves with sugary junk. Oh, what a bad day I had. I think I'll have some ice cream. Your day's going to get worse. And every time we have a little spinach, we pretend that we're doing penance with the spinach. I'm such a good boy, I ate my spinach. So I think I'll reward myself with a cookie or 2. And instead, what we could be saying to our 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds, or our husbands, I guess, what we could be saying to our children is, by the way, we ran out of ice cream. We do have a lot of raspberries, strawberries. We got some crunchy apples. Eat or don't eat the broccoli, and live on raspberries for a few days. You'll be fine. The one thing you don't want to do is give children another button to push. If you give a 2 or 3-year-old a button to push, they push it. So what do I get for the carrot? Nothing. Eat the carrot. Don't eat the carrot. Put the carrot down. I'll eat the carrot. But I'm not going to give you a piece of candy for eating your carrot. Barbie is a role model of anorexia. She is gorgeous, though. The Get Real Barbie was put together by researchers. A Get Real Barbie, according to the model that is sold to children in various forms, there is a Dr. Barbie and a Nurse Barbie and a Surfer Barbie and a Rehab Barbie. Get Real Barbie is 5 feet 9 inches tall. She weighs 110 pounds. She has a 39-inch bust with an 18-inch waist. And her feet are size 3. she would have to walk on all fours. The new teen Barbie. Children know when they're fat. Am I allowed to use the word fat, or is that politically? Children know when they're... I gave a speech in Missouri a few months ago. I was invited by the Missouri Nurses Association to give a talk. I thought it was a great opportunity. Hundreds of nurses, pediatric nurses, and they wanted me to speak about eating disorders. And I had a PowerPoint presentation, with bad food, good food, obesity, anorexia, and so on. And I stood up in front of this crowd and I looked, and there were a lot of 200-pound nurses in Missouri. Missouri apparently is not a hotbed of either vegetarianism or great nutrition. It was an uncomfortable talk. Okay?
If I was an American beef cow, you can bet that I would be mad too. You feed me with my brother. Well, what's a cow supposed to do? I eat grass until I'm full. Don't turn me into a cannibal. Pun. If I was an incoming pun, I should warn you. If I was an American beef cow, you can bet that I would be mad too. Here's a typical label, and here's Johnny Can label to help us read it. Oh boy. So we've all seen these. We know them well, right? Now, I'm going to propose. Suppose we designed a nutritional contents label for the experiences we feed our minds. What would that be like? Let's see. For example, television nutrition facts. How would we do it? Something like serving size, 60 minutes, subtract the commercials, 54 minutes. Thoughts per viewing, maybe. Total wisdom, reason, emotion. You measure emotion in grams, do you think? Fear, anger, desire. And then we'd probably add a greed stimulus index or a desire database. Warning, Surgeon General has determined that commercial television contains toxic content and may be hazardous to mental health. Not for sure. PBS, jury's still out.
And the most important task that the endothelial cell has in your body, it does not just a quiet, inert little cell. It is like a piece of brick lining a pipe. That endothelial cell is an absolute metabolic biochemical powerhouse, changing in your body minute by minute according to what you do for it or against it. Now, what are the good things that this endothelial cell does? It manufactures a gas, nitric oxide. Now, this was truly a monumental discovery. Furchtgott, Murad, and Ignarl are all American scientists who received the Nobel Prize in 1998 for the discovery of nitric oxide made by this endothelial cell and the functions that it does. What does the nitric oxide do for us? Nitric oxide has multiple functions. I think the most important of which may be that when you have to run upstairs or you've got to do something which requires more blood in your body, it allows your arteries to dilate. It is the strongest vasodilator in the body. And in addition, it has a great deal of effect on the flow characteristics of your blood. When your blood flows through your blood vessels and your white cells are sticky and your platelets are sticky, then it kind of flows like you're going through Velcro. But when you have nitric oxide, which keeps the white cell from being sticky, it keeps the platelets from being sticky. Now you're flowing, the blood is flowing like Teflon. Also, it has a way of inhibiting the muscular wall of the artery from migrating inside the plaque as plaque builds up. So nitric oxide does nothing except wonderful, wonderful things. And what happens is you're eating the typical American diet, and this is now a mechanism of what 87.5% of heart attacks occur, is that as you eat this diet and you raise the amount of fat that you're eating, and your cholesterol is up, and your homocysteine is up, your triglycerides are up, there is metabolic syndrome where the insulin resistance, your HDL is down, and maybe there's tobacco in it as well. All of those things. You eat the American diet and you have oxidative stress. Bite up an apple, you bite up an apple, look at it, 10 minutes later it's brown. It's gone rancid. Well, this is what the diet is trying to do to us. And the worst thing that it does, it injures our endothelium. And it makes, now we don't have the nitric oxide, and the white cells and the platelets get sticky, and they start going through the endothelium, and the white cell begins to get messages here that I got to gobble up all this bad oxidized LDL cholesterol, and multiple cells gobble this up, so much so that literally it is a blister of pus. And what tragically occurs is this conglomerate of these foam cells, all these white cells that have gobbled up the cholesterol, these foam cells are now making some terribly nasty chemical substances, metalloproteinases, that will erode selectively the upstream part of this plaque. And as that gets thinner and thinner and thinner, like a cobweb, the sheer force of blood rushing over that thinned out membrane results in rupture. And now we have this absolute catastrophic cascade that has occurred. With rupture of the plaque, we now have the extravasation of plaque content oozing out of, squeezing out of the plaque, getting into the flowing blood, activating platelets, and the next thing we know, thrombus forms, which in and of itself is self-propagating. So that in a matter of minutes, and you've heard me say this before, people who have never had a symptom of heart disease before in their life suddenly drop over dead because of a massive heart attack. The brachial artery tourniquet test, the ultrasound technician will examine the diameter of your brachial artery, then you will have a blood pressure cuff inflated over systolic blood pressure that for 5 minutes you will have no blood to your forearm. Then it is released, and there is a surge of blood into your forearm, so much so that if you remeasure with the ultrasound the diameter of your brachial artery, it will go dilate in the normal state. Therefore, you take the students to McDonald's, those that get the cornflakes, stays the same. Those that get the McMuffin breakfast, the hash browns, the eggs, doesn't, 120 minutes after the meal, you've lost the normal response. Now, after a number of hours, it will return. But it is a reflection of the fact that you have injured the endothelium. And that happens with any time you have a heavy fat meal.
When you eat a diet style that's so rich in protective nutrients, so rich in the foods that have the highest nutrient density, what we see is a greater magnitude in the ability of the body to release the miraculous healing powers of the human organism and to rapidly restore the body to normal from what are sometimes seemingly irreversible conditions. Just in the last few months, I had a girl, her name was Julissa. She had lupus, and her renal function, her kidney function was 4.7. That was her creatinine level, was 4.7, which means she lost over 95% of her kidney already. And she was on multiple medications, prednisone, Celsep, Imuran, all the typical drugs. And her kidney was not getting better, her lupus was not getting better. And when they came to see me, I thought I could help her. I wasn't 100% sure. But she wasn't sure she wanted to give up the McDonald's and the French fries and the cheeseburgers. But her family pressured her, and eventually she said she'd give it a shot. To make a long story short, within 4 months, this girl's renal function came back to normal. Here's a person whose doctors put her on the National Renal Transplant list. She was waiting for a new kidney. And within 4 months, her kidney function came back to normal. And not only that, but all signs of lupus in her blood tests are gone. She literally has no lupus and no medication. And she went back to her pediatric nephrologist, and he said, I've never seen the medications suddenly work after not working for 4 months. And she didn't tell him that she had stopped the medications 4 months earlier because they were doing nothing for her. And of course, this beautiful girl, she was puffed up like a balloon from all the drugs, and now she's back to a normal weight. She looks pretty, beautiful again, and she's back in good health. When your body is eating a low-nutrient diet style, your cells build up metabolic waste products. So let's say you're drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, and you stop drinking coffee. Are you going to feel better or worse when you stop the coffee? Worse. That's called withdrawal, right? Actually, any time you stop things that are harmful to you, you're going to feel temporarily worse. If you stop overeating, you're going to feel worse, not better. Stop doing... You see, healthy things don't make you feel better. If something makes you feel good, it stopped the addictive withdrawal, it stopped the pain or discomfort. It's harmful or toxic. Only things that are noxious make you feel better. You're taking broccoli, you don't feel better, you feel nothing. But I can give you medications to make you feel better. I can give you medications to make your heart go faster or slower, to make you urinate more or urinate less, to make you go to sleep or wake you up, to make a million things happen in your body. But you see, the efficacy of the pharmacologic substance is proportional to its toxicity. Same thing, I can give you natural herbs that do the same thing. But the herbal products aren't healthy for you because they're natural. They're toxic just like the drugs are in proportion to their efficacy. The sign of good health is you don't need medical care or alternative medicine. They're both looking for the remedy mentality to give you a remedy to fix something. Remedies can't give you health. Your health is illustrated by the lack of need for remedies because you've earned it. What does that have to do with losing weight? I'll tell you what it has to do with losing weight. Because when you stop eating even for 2 or 3 hours, when your body's not busy digesting food, that's when your body can most effectively withdraw, detoxify, and heal. And that's when you'll feel discomfort from your poor diet and all the junk you ate last month. Let me say this again. 2 or 3 hours after a meal, when the stomach empties and the glucose curve comes back to baseline, that's when your body has the ability to start to repair and rejuvenate from your toxic diet. And that's when you'll start to feel your caffeine headaches will come on. And you may then feel better if you eat. So you'll eat to feel better, to get rid of your caffeine headache. Or you'll drink a cup of coffee. Or you can go to the drug pusher on the street corner and snort cocaine. Or you can go to your doctor and get Esquit, Wygain, Vanquish, Furanol, Furoset, Midrin, all these other drugs whose active ingredients are barbiturates, narcotics, and caffeine to feel better. But feeling better isn't getting better. Feeling better is getting worse. Do you understand that? Feeling worse is getting better. What? You temporarily have to feel worse before you can get better. You have to get people off their medications, off their addiction, and diet. And the worse your diet is, the more lousy you feel a couple hours after eating because you're withdrawing from the noxiousness of that diet. And you're going to feel shaky and headachy and stomach cramping, abdominal spasm and esophageal fluttering and weakness and mental confusion. And you're going to think that's hunger. It's not hunger. This is why Americans are overweight. You could be underweight. You could be a good weight living on Twinkies if you eat very little of them and nothing else, right? The problem is you can't eat a little bit of Twinkies because when your body's starved of nutrients, it's going to be craving and feeling ill all the time. You have to keep shoving things in your mouth to make yourself feel better.
Just let me stop for a minute. I want to make it very clear that I know that nature designed her foods well, correctly, with the right amount of vitamins and minerals and plant hormones and all the other things that you need. It took 300 million years to do that. It's right, or if you choose, by divine creation. But it's right. And so there are 1,000 different isoflavones in plant foods and starches, fruits, and vegetables. How can you expect a manufacturer sitting in an ivory tower to take and dissect these natural foods and make them better than nature did? It can't happen. This has become such an issue that the British Medical Journal in July of this year carried an article about the fact that Israel, they had a health committee that got together and they made the following statements. Now, they didn't ban soy, they didn't ban it, but they were close. They said This health committee from Israel, they said soy contains phytoestrogens that may have some of the effects of human hormone if consumed in large quantity. After a year's work, a committee of experts also advised that adults who eat soy products do so in moderation. And they were particularly concerned about the children, and they came very close to banning. But my big question to you is why? Why would anybody want to eat something that looked like meat? I mean, those of you, and I know most of you here are that way, except for those of you who came kicking and screaming here by a well-meaning friend. You know what it's like to walk down the aisle of the grocery store meat with the meat counter on your side. I mean, it's disgusting. You can hardly wait to get to the other end. It's so disgusting, the sights and the smells and the thoughts. Why would anybody want something that looked like meat or tasted like meat? Makes no sense at all. This is my food, and I know it's yours too, and that's what we want it to look like. That's what we really enjoy. So the second step in disease mongering is once you've defined all these people who are sick, you got to go find them. And so how do we go find you? The way we find you is we provide free health services. We go to your place of employment. We go to your shopping centers. We invite you to health fairs. If it wasn't for Jeff and Sabrina, I'm sure they could have found easily an organization sponsored by a drug company to come in here and give you free bone mineral density tests. And guess what? 2/3 of you would be sick and out looking for drugs. It would have been great. So the second step in mongering is to find your customer. The truth of the matter is when you analyze the effects of bone density on predicting whether or not a woman is going to have a fracture, it's a complete failure. Study published in the British Medical Journal, the best review there is, looking at over 2,000 fractures, found that bone mineral density cannot identify individuals who will have a fracture, and they do not recommend screening for menopausal women for osteoporosis by measuring bone mineral density. There's only the biggest and best study done, but let's go on. If you take a look at other qualities of women, other characteristics, if you get to know your patients, okay, what you find, you know bone mineral density, but you know other things about a woman. You find that knowing her age is more predictive as to whether she's going to have a fracture due to osteoporosis than bone mineral density. If she had a relative who had an osteoporotic fracture, it is more predictive of whether she's going to have a future fracture than knowing her bone mineral density. If you know her general health, it's more predictive of whether she's going to have a fracture than bone mineral density. But how can you charge for collecting this data? You can't. But it's more reliable data than a bone mineral density.
I use these red lentils actually in just about everything I make because these lentils dissolve. And so if you make chili or whatever kind of soup you make, it's a really nice thickener. It's like it makes any soup you make very creamy, and you really hardly know it's there because you don't see them. So I'm gonna put about half a cup of these in.
Okay, now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients, and this is what is so simple. You just need a cup of lemon juice, and I buy organic lemon juice. This is just like squeezing fresh lemons. Now you can do it with fresh lemons, but it's going to take you a little bit more time. So this is really simple.
The Santa Cruz makes particularly good juices,
They do.
by the way.
They do, and they make wonderful juices. So it just takes a cup of lemon juice. And then what's different is the sweetener in this is agave nectar. Now, agave nectar comes from the agave plant. It's very, very sweet. And I tried some of this kind yesterday. It's made by Living Temple, and they have it in the back of the exhibition area. And completely different from the agave nectar that I can get up in the Santa Rosa area. I've never seen this before, but I tried a taste test between the two. And this is a much richer taste, much more enjoyable taste. So we're going to use this in the pudding this morning.
I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pour this bottle in here. It's a doubled recipe. Normally you'd add maybe a cup. This is probably a cup and a half. The neatest thing to do with garlic, you just lay it down like this and you take the flat of your hand and you just smack it like that and it'll loosen up just like that. I'm going to use my TriBest blender because, I could chop it up, but I don't have to. I just drop it in here like that.
These are, by the way, these little burners. You should all have them for your emergency preparedness kit. They're great. Really, you get these little cans of butane. And if you shop at Asian markets, I always suggest that you can get them for maybe $12 or something. Keep a couple stashed in the garage. And with your water supply and your carrying cages for your animals, in case you have to get out, you're ready to go with your animals. Thank you very much. Always have to take care of the animals, which is one of the reasons why I do this. The health is very important, but I think we can make a difference in the lives of not only ourselves and all other beings by eating a vegetarian, healthy diet.
Here.
Let's hear it for the cats and dogs and elephants. Yeah.